So Deezer just announced a massive update to how they're going to be processing streaming royalties, and it might change the entire music industry if this were to be adapted on a widespread scale. There's some perks that I think are better for artists, and there's one weird thing that might be worse for artists, so let's go through it. Hey everyone, Andrew here. In this video, we're going to be going through this article, but I'm going to summarize it for you just because I don't want to bore you just by reading an article. So there's three main portions of this. Deezer's calling this their artist-centric model here. And if I zoom in a tad, there's three main elements for it. One, artists who attract over 1,000 listens from 500 unique listeners will get a double boost in their streaming payments on the service. We'll talk about that more later because I'm kind of a little bit concerned about that. Now, if an artist is being actively searched out instead of algorithmically served, that stream is worth double, which I think is a good thing, but we'll talk more about that. Three, they're going to replace non-artist noise content on the platform with its own Deezer-made content, which I think is a good thing, but it might screw over some of you. So let's talk about the good things first. This double payment for people actively seeking out your music. This means if someone types in your name on Deezer and listens to your music, then you're going to get paid double for that compared to what you'd be paid for an algorithmic stream. So Deezer has all these algorithmic playlists, just like Spotify and Apple Music and everyone else. The active streams will count double, which I think makes a ton of sense. This also very likely means, I don't think they clarified, if you send someone to your Deezer, to your song on Deezer, to your artist profile, they're actively seeking you out. They're not being served your music algorithmically. So that pays double what passive listening will effectively pay. And personally, I think this makes a ton of sense. Like if you're the one responsible for starting a streaming session or sending people to the platform, you should be rewarded for that. And a lot of these changes come from the UMG guy, Lucian, whatever. And he says a lot of controversial stuff that I disagree with, but that's one particular point that to me makes a lot of sense. Now, the second good thing, in my opinion, is the replacing non-artist noise content. So this, I do know people who do this. They make white noise and rain sounds, and they distribute them, and they make good money. It's a volume game, and you can promote it, or you can have algorithmically recommended sounds and stuff like that. But even though people can make good money doing this, it's always been kind of this loophole, borderline fraud-like thing. And I don't judge anyone that does it because you can't blame someone for trying to make a living. But it really shouldn't be on the platform. It's not really music. And Deezer replacing it with their own content, which maybe it's AI generated or whatever, they're just going to delete all that content and they're going to replace it with their own that doesn't pay anything. Basically, like all those streams that are generated for Deezer stuff, they don't take money out of the pool. So like on Spotify, we have no idea how many streams are going to like white noise sounds and rain sounds and random other crap that's not really music. And on Spotify, since it's a user or country by country pool system, any money those streams get are taking money away from the actual artists who are making real music. And I'm not here to stand on a high horse and tell you like what is real music and what's not music. There's a lot of gray areas. If you're making like experimental stuff, or you have an album and there's some tracks that are more just like noises and stuff, like that's music, right? And there's some line here. And so I feel like there's probably going to get some people who are going to be unfairly screwed over. Who knows how they're going to define what is music and what's not music. In general, I think this is a good thing because most of it is just fluff that is designed to just take as much money out of the system as possible. So now let's talk about the potentially bad thing. And right now, I don't think this is a bad thing. It's the artists who attract over 1,000 listens a month from 500 or more listeners will get a double boost in their stream. So this means like between these two things, you can get paid 4 times extra per stream if you're doing both of these, like actively being seeked out by listeners and having over 1,000 listens a month from over 500 people. However, where does this go from here? Like, does this eventually go up to a point where the biggest artists in the world are being paid twice as much? Like, I don't think that makes sense. Like, it's different if someone is seeking out your music actively versus passively. I think that totally makes sense. It's a level playing field no matter what size artist you are, how new you are, how old you are, whatever. But paying people who have a certain streaming volume more doesn't really make sense in my opinion. It seems like another way for record labels to make more money and for smaller, independent, up-and-coming artists to make less money. Now, I do think there's one way that this could work and actually be good. So, for example, there's like tens of thousands of artists who are getting almost no streaming volume, but they do get some. So let's say there's like 100,000 artists getting 200 streams a month, right? And there's like overall across all of them, they're getting a ton of streams. They're not really actively artists. They're people who may have uploaded music years ago and it's just still on the platform. They're not really active artists anymore. And anyways, they'd be getting like this tiny trickling of payments that they're not relying on anyways, in most cases. And so in that situation, if there's some threshold where like, under this, you make this half royalty rate, you get above this relatively low barrier, like a 500 listeners and 1,000 streams is a pretty low barrier. On Spotify, on Deezer, it's not because so few people use Deezer. But if that it was still a relatively small barrier, then I can see this being a good thing, because then it becomes more like a YouTube partner program, right? Where you have to get a certain amount of watch time hours and a certain amount of subscribers to be able to make money on YouTube. This would kind of be like that, except they're still paying something for all of those small creators. They're just paying more once you become a quote unquote real creator. And I just don't want to see this become like, oh, now you need 10,000 a month, and then you need 100,000 a month, then you need a million a month. And then all of a sudden, it's only the top artists in the world, only record label artists who are making twice as much. Well, all the normal, like the vast majority of normal indie artists are getting paid like crap. Now, there's a few limitations and caveats to this system. You might think with all these multiples, how is Deezer going to make any money? Well, they're not going to give out more money than they take in, right? They're just not going to happen. So there's still some kind of like cap to the system where they only have a certain amount of money they're paying out. But things are being calculated and multiplied in this way. And they were very careful to say here that this is not a user-centric model. They're calling it an artist-centric model. And I might be wrong about this, but I didn't see anything in this article that talked about how it being a user-centric streaming model, meaning like if you only listen to Taylor Swift this month, then all of your money goes to Taylor Swift. I didn't see this in here. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it's in another article. Maybe it's talked about somewhere else. But that is one thing that I did not see. Now, another thing to mention, that this is not worldwide yet. Right now, it's happening in France, because that's where Deezer is located, and then it's going to expand out. And who knows if this is necessarily going to be for like everyone on Deezer at first, or it's going to be limited to UMG, who is like announcing this kind of partnership thing. And actually down here, you can see today's announcement, UMG and Deezer contain no nod to user-centric economics at all. So like, who knows if that's going to be a part of it or not. But they did talk a little bit about anti-fraud technology, and they're really trying to also, in addition to all of this, reduce the amount of streaming fraud happening on the platform, reduce bots, reduce copyright infringement, people stealing music, and all this kind of fake stuff that happens on Spotify and Apple Music and Deezer now too. But their goal is to reduce that. And I think these changes make sense, right? Because if there's all this fake stuff in the system, whether it's bots or it's like just people who aren't actually trying to be an artist, just getting trickles of streams, or people uploading rain music and white noise sounds, that all takes money out of the system, right? Imagine if we got rid of all that crap. How much more money would there be in Spotify? Let's say, for example, it's 30% of all the money in Spotify is going to bots, it's going to fake stuff, it's going to rain, white noise, it's going to like artists getting 100 streams a month or whatever. What if all of that got reduced and it went directly to everyone else who's actually doing real music, whether they're big or small or whatever? Then, I mean, everyone gets a 30% raise, right? Because they pay out on a percentage model. So if 30% of the money is back into the ecosystem, everyone gets a 30% raise. So if you were making $1,000 a month in your streams, now you're going to make $1,300. Is that math? That's math. $1,300 a month from your streams. So who knows how this is going to go? We're going to see how it goes on Deezer, and then we'll see if other platforms adapt this artist-centric model or a user-centric model. People have been talking about these models for years, and no one seems to want to fully switch to it. So it'll be cool to see a real-life experiment from a company completely changing how streams are paid on their platform. If you want to see more music industry news, though, you can check out this playlist right here where I have a bunch of other videos done on that. And if you want to learn how to market your music on Spotify with Facebook ads, you can check out this video right here. I'll throw my favorite one, whatever I'm feeling at the moment. Anyways, thank you much for watching, and I'll see you next video. Bye.